Natacha, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. I am absolutely thrilled that you're here. We've got so much that we're going to dive into. For our lovely listeners out there, Natacha is the director of CocoNutacha, which is an online stationery and design brand focusing on positivity, motivation, and organization. She also makes, designs and creates jumpers. And if you can see mine, I'm wearing one. I'm completely geeking out and wearing your jumper. But I just thought it was such a lovely design when I saw it. It came out, I think, was it December these came out? November, December time?
November for my Patreons, and then everyone else, like at the end of November, begin December.
And I just loved it. As soon as I saw it on your YouTube, it was funny because that morning my husband was like, what do you want for Christmas? I was like, do you fancy getting me a jumper? So there we go. And unfortunately with the strikes, it did arrive last week. I think I messaged you. Was it last week that it came? But it turned up, and it was great to have a Christmas present in January because January is just a depressing month otherwise.
Exactly. I can't believe how long things were taking with the strikes.
Yeah, it really was insane. But do you know what? I think I found the most insane about all of the postal strikes that I shipped a couple of orders in December for myself, and I had one arrive in California before it arrived. Another one arrived in the UK, and I was just like, what's this all about?
Same. All my international orders were quicker than the UK orders.
So bizarre.
It was hard.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know, it was so bizarre. But anyway, that was my very short introduction to you, but I'd love to hand over to you and get you to introduce yourself properly.
Okay, so my name is Natacha, and I own a stationery company, primarily on Etsy, but my own website as well, called CocoNutacha. And I started by creating watercolors and paintings and illustrations. And then it's kind of just grown into stationery and sweaters and accessories. And I just want to branch out more and more.
I love it because did I see you're doing earrings as well now?
Yes, I've recently had a laser cutter, and I'm still experimenting with things because I can design things and draw things. I feel very comfortable with a pencil or a pen in my hand. But when it comes to making something 3D, like jewelry, it's a whole different like area. So I'm still experimenting with that. Been doing little studs recently. I made some peach ones and dinosaur ones for the Christmas markets. And I thought I'd put them in those markets just to see how they did and if people actually liked them and if they didn't fall apart. And they were a success. So I need to continue experimenting with things now and see where that takes me.
That is so exciting. I will say, and I keep saying, did I see? For anybody who doesn't know and probably doesn't from listening to this episode or watching it on YouTube, I follow Natacha on her YouTube, and I'm going to link her YouTube as well because she just does these really lovely vlogs. But I saw you you did an episode in one of your vlogs about getting the laser cutter, and I will say my husband was ridiculously jealous because he's really into designing and creating things, and he's going to kill me for like telling people this, but we've got 3D printers, different types of 3D printers in the house, as you do. But one of the things that he really wants next is a laser cutter and a laser printer. So when I said, I've just watched somebody who's got one, he was very jealous. Yeah. Very jealous, but never mind. That's an aside. So yeah, you mentioned so much that you've got going on in your business, and you're on Etsy. You're not on the high street as well.
Yes, I try to be a little bit of everywhere.
I just think that's absolutely amazing. What made you want to set up your business and get it to the stage that it is now? What was your motivation behind that?
It was never my plan to be where it is now. My plan in the beginning, I was in university, I was a student studying graphic design, and I just wanted something, like my hobby was illustration and painting. And like during the summer holidays and everything, I just needed something to do. And so I was always told, like, you should sell your work, you should do this, you should set up a shop. And so I just did it. So it was just meant to be like a little thing on the side to help me through uni. And just a way to get out my creativity. And then my plan was always to be a like full-time employee somewhere working in a team, because that's I love working as a team, but I work by myself now. Um
With Poochie.
yeah, with my little dog. Well, not so little. So I never, let's say I didn't want this, but it was never in my plan at the time. And then when I did leave university and I got my full-time job, I was kind of sold. I thought it'd be different than what it was. Um, I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't bringing out the best in me. And I would go home every night and work on my Etsy shop till like 12 a.m., 1 a.m., go to work the next day, every single day, repeat, because then it turned into a goal where I wanted to work for myself and be my own boss and do my own things and let out my creativity and do what I enjoy the most. So luckily, the people who I worked for were amazing and they let me go part time at first. It's just so it wasn't so scary, because like now I can't imagine, I don't know whether it's because I'm older, I can't imagine leaving a full time secure job to go by myself now. I'm glad I did it when I was younger and maybe a bit more naive. Um, but yeah, they were really kind, let me go part time for like a year. I think I was 2 days in the office and then 3 days on my own business. And then eventually it got to a point where I saved up enough and I thought, yes, this income can replace the income I was receiving in my full time job, and let's just go for it. Um, but yeah, at the time I was living with my parents, so also there was that as well that gave me stability. Like now, I think I would be so much more scared. Like, yeah, I can't imagine doing it now. I'm glad I did it when I had the chance to do it without being so terrified.
I love that so much. I love it how it wasn't the long time goal, but the opportunity was there. I can relate to that so much because I have to say I mean I did nursing at uni, and my plan was to be, if I'm being completely honest, and people might laugh at me, but my goal was to be a sister in an emergency department. Kind of not there at the moment, but our lives lead us in very strange ways sometimes, and I think
Mhm.
sometimes it's for the better, and it's for the it's really exciting. I'd love to know though, with all of these different things that you've got going on, what have been your biggest business highs?
The biggest, sorry, excuse me,
It's okay.
biggest, I would say for me personally, is being able to get my house, like get a mortgage, getting a mortgage while being full time self employed. It felt impossible at the time. Um, it is so hard. Anyone that's ever done that, like, is so hard. And I take my hat off to them. And then also, I would say going to a trade show last year and securing my first huge wholesale order for TK Maxx.
Wow.
That still seems unreal. Um, but yeah, those are my two massive highs.
That sounds incredible. Tell us more about the trade show and getting a wholesale order from TK Maxx, because that just sounds like such an incredible experience.
I still can't believe it happened. I did my first trade show in February 2020. Completely the wrong time, because
I was going to say right before we went into lockdown.
right before all the shops closed. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd never been to a trade show before, even just to scope it out. I just jumped right in the deep end. Um, Obviously, if I did it now, I would go and do a lot more research. But obviously, after the whole COVID thing happened, I did sign up to another trade show, Top Draw, in London, and that was last year, so 2020 in February, I think. And a buyer from TK Maxx actually emailed me before I was there. And I don't know how they found me. Maybe they found me on the Top Draw website, because before the show, they have all the exhibitors and like the little home pages on the Top Draw website. So maybe it was through there. And they just asked if they could come and meet me at the show and discuss, about my stationery and things. And I was so nervous. I was so like I didn't know which day they were coming on, and this show was on for 3 days, and I
Wow.
wasn't sure which day they were going to turn up on. So every day I was just like, "Oh my god, is that them? Is that them?" And then
It feels like an on-spec job interview or something
oh,
almost.
it's like trade shows are the most intimidating thing I've ever done, but also so fun and such a very steep learning curve. But I enjoyed every second. Also extremely exhausting, but
I can
worth.
imagine.
But yeah, then they turned up I think on the last day, and I was nervous for nothing because the conversation was absolutely fine. They loved my stationery. We were chatting about they were from Wales, which always helps when you meet another Welsh person. My partner's fluent in Welsh, so they were speaking to each other.
Oh, I love that.
It couldn't have gone any better. And then after when we got home, we discussed placing an order for things, and their margins are quite well, very, very, very tight. Like wholesale pricing is so different to retail pricing. It's at least 50, 60% off. And you can
Wow.
only reach those margins if you order tons and tons of things. So it was it was scary negotiating because I've never negotiated on that scale before. But I had to just say, if you want them at this price, you're gonna have to order like 1,000. Thinking they would be like, okay, we'll leave it for now. But no, they were like, yeah, okay, we'll have 1,000 of this, 1,000 of that, and 1,000 of this.
Wow.
Okay, it's happening. And so there I was just ordering my stationery as usual, but in much, much larger quantities. I think I did a YouTube video, and there's this my living room was just full of boxes, like 50 boxes in my living room of heavy stationery. Like some boxes are 25k, and I'm built like a noodle, so everything was so heavy. But yeah, I did it. It was a very steep learning curve. I don't have any more trade shows lined up for this year because I'm not sure whether that's the route I want to go down anymore. And as well with things since COVID, things have moved online a bit more, especially with Fair and websites like that. So I had nothing booked, but I think I'll get to the point where I miss being in person, and I'll probably book one eventually.
I love that so much. Have you been into TK Maxx and actually like seen your products in
Yeah,
TK Maxx? That
yeah.
must be so surreal.
It was. I first had people messaging me on Instagram and tagging me in pictures and videos, and I was like, "Oh my god, they're there!" So we went straight down to our local TK Maxx, and they were just there on the shelf, and I was like, "Oh!" And there's me just like cleaning up the shelves and making them look really nice.
I love that so much. That is just, oh my gosh, that is just, I think that is just the dream for so many people though, to have their products in such a major retailer. And I'm just wondering, do they have TK Maxx in the US?
I
Because
think
we,
TJ,
yes, that sounds about right.
yeah,
I'm just thinking because we've got a listenership for the podcast in the US. So I was just thinking of drawing a comparison. I can't honestly remember if they've got TK Maxx over there. I'm speaking to my friend in America in 2 days' time, and I will ask her if they have TK Maxx. But that is just so exciting. Like I said, I just think that is such a dream. And if they don't have TK Maxx in the States, just for reference, it's a huge chain store that just they sell a bit of everything in there, don't they? Like,
little treasure hunt. They said, like,
it really is. It's like a little Aladdin's cave, I think, isn't it? It's one of those annoying places that you go in thinking, oh, I'll just buy a t-shirt, and like you come out with,
the most
well,
random.
stationery and a t-shirt and a lamp and like all sorts of things. But that is just, I think that is so exciting. I couldn't imagine going in and seeing something that I've created on a shelf in that respect. That's so exciting. I can't even talk. So with the kind of like business highs, I'm guessing that there are going to be some like lows in the business. I know that we've already talked about like the Royal Mail strikes that happened over November, December of last year, which was insane for a lot of people. But how do you deal with, because you're a solopreneur just like me, so how do you deal with the low moments in your business?
I guess the low moments sort of push me to try harder. The lowest moment ever would have been when I was told I couldn't buy my house. So I was already living here and I was trying to buy my ex out of the mortgage. And basically, you have to apply all over again. And because I was self employed, they would like, no, it's tough. You're going to have to. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to sell my house.
No.
Everything I've worked for is going to go on. That was the low moment. But also, that was the motivation to try so hard during COVID and during, the probably one of the worst times ever, to just go for it and try everything I possibly can, push YouTube, push Patreon, push my new designs, get new stuff out there, just go full throttle with the business. And then I got it in the end. But that was, yeah, that was the toughest time, being told you can't have something when it, you already have it and you
I was
might,
going to say, especially when it is already yours to a
yeah,
degree.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was a very tough time. But looking back now, I look back on it fondly because I did so many things thanks to the pressure. I wouldn't ask for it to happen again, but I made it work in my favor in the end.
that's brilliant. And like you said, it's just throwing yourself into it and just taking those opportunities and what have you. You mentioned something I want to pick up on though, which actually, as I think about it, we haven't covered it on the podcast yet. You mentioned Patreon and how you run a Patreon. So tell us about that. What, for anybody who's listening who doesn't know, what is a Patreon? How does it work? I'll hand that over to you.
Okay, so Patreon is basically a subscription service where you can subscribe to creators, be it musicians, artists, designers, teachers. So you can sign up as, so I've signed up as an illustrator designer, and it's a place where I give sort of like more information and more details behind the scenes of how I run my business, more like works in progress, and people can sign up to that and listen to my podcasts, extra videos and tutorials. Um, and I have like a tier system. Not everyone decides to do this, but on Patreon you can have different tiers. So you can sign up for as little as $2 a month, all the way up to $25 a month. And for example, the lowest tier on my Patreon gives you podcasts and blogs and behind the scenes pictures. And the top tier gives you a physical monthly goodie box where you get exclusive art prints that I design, bookmarks, stationery pieces, and bits and pieces like that. You can cancel whenever, so it's not like a tied in thing, but it's basically a chance to give is to give people a chance to access more of you and your business and your creations. I hope I explained that right.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way of explaining it. It's I guess it's almost like a Facebook group, but with so much more almost. And you know that you're supporting that creator as well to continue to do not only what they love, but also to be able to put out the product that you love as the person, kind of sponsoring the Patreon, I suppose. I think that's a fantastic idea. And you gave some really good examples there of people who could benefit from a Patreon. If there was anybody out there kind of thinking to themselves, oh, that maybe, because I know memberships are such a big thing at the moment. If anyone's thinking, oh, maybe a Patreon might be a good idea for me, where might you recommend that people start with that idea?
I would say, well, I would say Patreon is, it's not easy. You would need a specific audience before you would start. So whether that is a loyal following on Instagram or YouTube, or perhaps you want to start teaching and providing tutorials, you need to find those people who would come to you for those certain classes. But it's knowing your audience before you start. And I guess no one's going to know if people will ever sign up. I mean, I didn't know. No one knows if you're going to get subscribers when you do start a Patreon. But I guess you need to have some sort of awareness of your audience and who they are and what they want and what they would want to see more of from you. And if you can put those things on a Patreon and you think people would pay to get those rewards, then try it. It's great. Like the community that we've built over there, everyone is so supportive and so lovely. I always, if I'm unsure of a design or I have two different options, I put it on Patreon and I put like a little poll underneath and they just vote for it and they'll tell me their honest opinions. And it's just so lovely, friendly, and so useful.
I love that so much. And I think you hit the nail on the head really well of it's remembering that this, like so many other business resources or tools, they are there to enhance your business. And like so many other tools, it's, you know, like you said, there's got to be some kind of plan and knowing your audience and how that's going to fit in with your overall business kind of strategy, as opposed to thinking, oh, this isn't really working for me, I'm going to go set up this next week and this is going to bring me in my millions. I'm sure that's worked for one or two people, but for, you know, 99% of the time, as you said, it's making sure that you know your audience and fitting it all into your overall strategy there. But I think that's really exciting. I'm going to go ahead and check out that Patreon, I have to say. What are you looking forward to the most in 2023?
This is probably the year where I haven't planned anything.
I
I've
love
planned
that.
nothing. So it's been so full on the past couple of years, as we all know. I've had plan after plan after plan. Like it's been like sort of survival mode. And I guess it's more of the same this year, especially with the uncertainty now of, you know, everything going on, the cost of living. I guess my only plan at the moment is to release more sweaters. And I've done more designs. I've got like a Valentine's spring design. I have a peach design. I have a cat design. My only plan is to just keep the momentum going and not burn out. But yeah, I have nothing major yet this year, but I know that I will because it something always crops up and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna do that. But at the moment, nothing major.
Sometimes though, I think that is really nice. Talked about this on the podcast a couple of episodes ago, that sometimes we go into January being like, oh, new me, new goals, and new year, new goals, all these kind of things. And actually sometimes there's no need for the new goals. And like you said, the best thing you can do is keep the momentum going or continue with projects that you're really passionate about or have worked really well, leveraged really well with your audience. So I absolutely love that. And you did touch on the cost of living crisis.
Mhm.
I need to ask, how has that like felt in your community? Because I've noticed some conversation on social media of people saying, oh, you know, I'm really worried about my prices because of cost of living. I then actually was speaking to somebody the other day and I was like, well, Gucci sell a plastic hairband for $350 and that's still
Yeah.
selling. So
And the Tiffany paperclip.
yes,
Yes. Like I
yes.
always think of that. Um, yeah, I think prices, if anything, like they've just increased everyone's. So don't be afraid to increase your prices because if you don't, then you're taking a pay cut. And everyone understands. Like if I've had to say I'm sorry, but the price has changed since we last spoke, they're like, yeah, I expected that. It's absolutely fine. So yeah, everyone has needed to raise their prices over the past couple of months, and it's not anything that we should be ashamed of.
I really like that advice. I think that is really, really key because, yeah, I think people get themselves caught up in, first of all, the pricing conversation just to begin with when you're pricing your product or service. But then, yeah, when it comes to raising the prices, it's, well, what if I turn away customers? And
Mm.
like you said, the Tiffany paperclip. And there was an advent calendar, wasn't there, that came out? I can't think who made it. Was it like Yves Saint Laurent or
Yeah,
Chloe or some?
yeah, one of them.
It was one of them, and it was like over £1,000. And like, it was. Did you see the girl who opened it on YouTube or whatever? And it was
No.
well, I would not have spent that much on it. I think I think you only got like half the days, like a present half the days, and like one day it was literally like a sticker, just one sticker that you're there thinking, not being funny, but you can buy that on Etsy for like £2. And then for another day there was a candle. It was a nice candle, but it didn't come with a lid because the lid came on a different day.
The lid.
And The lid was a present one day. Honestly, I'm gonna have to find this video.
Wow.
I can't remember who did it, but like I said, it was one of the big, really big perfume companies. I can't think who it was. I'm gonna find it and I'll
Yeah.
send you the link because it was just, yeah, it was. But my point is that if people are going to spend over £1,000 on that, there is still money to be spent in the world there. Goodness me. Yeah, I need to find that
Yeah,
video again. It did make me
there's
laugh.
still people buying. It's just people have been a lot more. I noticed it mainly during all the Christmas markets this year. The markets obviously pre 2020, and people were spending a lot more than this year. And I even like little greeting cards and stickers and pens. People will be a lot more considerate, like looking at it, dissecting it, and then deciding actually no, not right now. Um, but the markets still were great. I just the general um, overview were that they weren't as great as in previous years, but they were still really good, and people are still spending, just being more considerate. So I just think we need to push, just sell a bit more and say why this is a good product and why you need it and what's good about it, rather than just being I made this, it's on my shop, and leaving it at home.
Absolutely. It comes back to that kind of marketing. And I think also, just generally, even with cost of living crisis kind of aside, I think there's so much content on like YouTube now and just generally out there on the internet that people are very aware of how products are made
Mhm.
and the effort, the resources, the materials that go into making products. That I know that my husband's self-employed and I'm self-employed. And since we got into that self-employed market, that's one thing that I've noticed a lot. We are both, when we go around Christmas markets or anything, we look at the price of something and we're like, well, yeah, because the materials probably cost this, and then it's taken them this long to make it. So they're
Yeah.
then going to need to sell X amount of them to make X amount of hours wage and what have you. And like you said, people are just much more much more conscious of that kind of thing now. But I think again also that is just thanks to the amount of information that's out there of creators showcasing how they make their products, that's just
Yeah.
educating people, isn't it? So what I would love to know, we've talked about so much in this episode. It's been absolutely fantastic. But what is one key takeaway that you would like our listeners to take away from this episode?
One key takeaway. I would say if you're feeling under pressure, I don't know, you just go for it. Just feel the motivation. If you're feeling stuck in a rut, what I've done this morning actually, I felt stuck in a rut for January. I think it's just a January thing. I wrote down a scheduled morning to-do list. I broke down every single thing from take a shower, eat breakfast, and then start work. So write everything down. If you're feeling stuck in a rut, do some journaling, write down a schedule, start the day. You'll feel so much better after it. And I guess don't let the pressure get to you, or let it get to you in a good way so that you go full throttle and, yeah, just do what you want to do. Oh, and mochi.
Dog agrees.
Yeah.
Look, they just go full throttle and he jumps up and steals your chair. I love that. I think that's fantastic advice. I love that so much. I think that's going to be my soundbite of the episode. Well, Natasha, thank you so much for joining us today. I have had such a great time chatting with you. And I will post all the links to your website, to this lovely shirt as well, which, by the way, I just want to put out there in case anyone is wondering. No, she is not paying me to wear this jumper at all. It's not an affiliate link. I just love the jumper. It is ridiculously cozy to
Oh, I'm
wear.
so
So
glad.
I want to. I do want to admit and say I have worn it like pretty much nonstop, but then it sounds like I've been a child at Christmas who just hasn't like washed their clothes. I promise you I have. But yeah, so I just, before anyone's like, oh, it's an affiliate link, it's not. It's just a great shirt. So I'm going to link that down in the show notes as well. But no, thank
Thank
you so
you.
much for joining us. It has been brilliant.
Thank you for having me.